So good morning. We're in the middle of the Maimer. We're finishing today the first chapter of the second Maimer. It's page 51 in the Overcoming Folly edition. Kuntres U'Maayan. So the Rebbe told us until now that there's two difficulties with acting like a behemoth. One is that you're a human and not a behemoth. And two, when you do that, you are actually worse than the behemoth, because the behemoth does what it's God granted the mission, being a behemoth. It doesn't have das, and we have das, and we're humans, and nevertheless, when we act with taivas, bahamis, and all that, it's worse. That's what we learned yesterday, and now we continue on page 51. When it comes to being convinced by the Yetzer Hara to engage in prohibited matter, there's something else that convinces him, even if he does this bad thing, nevertheless, the Yetzer Hara says to him, listen, you're doing something very bad, but you should know that you're not separating yourself from God. He convinces him with such a baba maisa. and the truth is, do we think when we do an Aveda, whatever the Aveda is, here he's talking about Dvarim Asurim, do we really think I'm disconnecting myself from God? No. You ask the average person, the person says, I'm still of God and I'm still connected to God. I have a taiva and I have to do it. So the Rebbe says here, but the truth is that you are being nifred. You are separating yourself from Hashem. But the Yetzer Hara convinces him otherwise. Dehine b'nishmas Yisrael yesh beteva nafsham she'enam yecholim liyas nifrodim melikus. The Rashab says, and the Alter Rebbe says in the Tanya chapters 18 and 19, by nature, a Yid Eina Yecholim cannot separate himself from godliness. Mishum ki ata avinu, because you are our father. You can jump up and down. Your father and your mother are the ones who gave birth to you, and it's not going to help you. Change your name, change your nose, go into meetings, badmouth them. If that's a gur nicht helfen. The same is true. The neshama that the Eibishter gave us, Moshe, he's our father. Even someone who's most lenient and most sinful amongst the nation of Israel, this is again from Tanya, gives their soul, has mesiras nefesh for sanctifying Hashem's name. The Frierdiker Rebbe, Shmuel was aware, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes in his Maimorim and his Sichos that the bombs were flying in Warsaw over his head, and he was standing near Yidden who were not Shem the Shabbos, who were Machal Shabbos, and all of a sudden they put their hand on their eyes and they said, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. And the Rebbe asks, where did it come from? They're not putting on tefillin, they're not keeping Shabbos, they're smoking a Shabbos, etc., etc. The answer is the Pintel Yid. And that when the Pintel Yid is confronted with either do or die for being a Yid, right away he goes into his Yiddishkeit neshama mode. This is what he means. The Gam Kal Kalim, even the most lenient of lenient, Uposhea Yisrael, and sinners amongst Israel, Meiser Nafshi Al Kiddush Hashem, they have Mesiras Nefesh for sanctifying Hashem's name. V'hainu the kasher afilu noitlim es nafshe mimenu. Even if they know, we're going to take your soul, we're going to kill you because you're a Jew. Le yaved aved zoreh chas v'sholem. For example, the classical Talmudic example, the Jew will not worship idols, even in face of being killed. Why? Not because he doesn't want to, because he can't. Look at the words. He cannot be separated from God's unity and oneness. You hear this deep point. Even if he were to want, right? It won't help him. He can't. He has a neshama. So outwardly, maybe months ago or a year ago, you cited a name that was a Jewish anti-Semite, right? Outwardly, maybe he's a Jewish anti-Semite, but if he's a Yid, a real Yid, he has a neshama and it cannot be nifred melekusi yisbarach. He can't sever the connection. One second. What?
Journalist Danny Pearl, who was beheaded by ISIS a few years ago, the last thing he said before they beheaded him, he wasn't religious, he said, I'm a Jew.
Yeah, he said, I'm a Jew. Shmuel, he said, I am a Jew, my father was a Jew or is a Jew, and I will die as a Jew, something like that. Yes. And I think even Ed Koch, who wrote his own Matzeva, tombstone, he also put, I am a Jew. And he was very far from traditional Yiddishkeit. This is the argument. If the Jew would have really known, not he knows by osmosis, by growing up in a Treif Talmud Torah, going to Sunday school, but he really would know that by doing Ma'aseh Hara, an evil act, Moshe Nasa Nifred Melikus, he becomes separated from godliness, he would never do it. No one's going to commit suicide to themselves. And if you do, there's something mentally wrong you need help with. But a normal person will not do that. The Yetzer Hara convinces him and talks to him and drains him a cup. Shim Kol Zeh, what does the Yetzer Hara say, Avi? Hey guy, you just indulge in this prohibited issue, and I'm telling you, you don't become separated from godliness. And he convinces him with this argument, and that's how he ends up doing it. But if he were to really know, he would tell to the Yetzer Hara, go fly a kite. You're so wrong. You have the wrong information. The Yetzer Hara continues to convince the person when he wants him to do an avera, a prohibition. He says, you're like every other Jew. Haneman imelikov. Every other Jew that's trusted and believed with godliness. You're in the ballpark. You're still a Yid. Now, I want to make it clear, crystal clear. Even a Jew who commits an avera is always a Yid, contrary to a certain shita in the community that is and was, where they said a Jew is not religious, isn't a Jew. Maybe you're not a good Jew, you're doing averas and all that, you're not a learned Jew, but a Jew you always are. Weiter. This is more of the conversation of the Yetzer Hara convincing man to do an avera. He promises him, it'll be good for you. You're going to get some mileage out of it. As it says in the Torah, he will bless his inside his heart. He'll say to himself, peace will be to me, for by my heart I will go. I will go by the dictates of my heart, and it's going to be good. Whatever my heart wants, I'm going for it. Even if he follows the dictates of the heart, he'll have peace. So he convinces him, live it up, do whatever you want, enjoy yourself, and shalom, you'll have peace. And this is how he ends up falling into many pitfalls, many problems. Kitzer. The nefesh habamis it may be feeble, it may be schwach. And there's some type of nefesh habamis that's very, very aggressive and passionate. So you have different types. The one that has a very aggressive nefesh habamis, he must have any type of taiva that he knows of. He will do everything it takes to pursue and get it. He won't stop for anything. See, someone who has a weak nefesh habamis, Yoni, okay, I'd like to have it, but if I don't, it's not the end of the world. But someone has, you could say it's a type A versus a type B, whatever, he must have it. And he says, Vafilu taivas heter po'omim rabbis ma'ave, even permissible taivas, indulgences, many times, ma'ave, it makes the person coarse, she'ena pachad el kim neged einov, causing the person to lack the fear of God. Va'yetzahara misisai. The Yetzer Hara goes even further to convince the person, Shigam b'taivas yisod, even indulging in prohibited ish matters, Aidenu kechol ba Yisrael, you're still like every single Jew. Next minor, page 53.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
So what you were talking in this mimer. And
well, actually, it's next parent. We're still in the same mimer, but you mean in this chapter, yes?
So you're talking about how a Yid is a Yid, right? Regardless of whatever decisions that Yid made, he's still a Yid, and even though he does the worst of errors, he's still a Yid. Okay, I hear that.
But Yoni, but the point of the Rashab here was, he's saying, I that's not what he's emphasizing. I emphasize that. What he's emphasizing is how it could be that you could go so long and do an Avera and sever the relationship because the Yetzer Hara convinces you otherwise. Right. So you understand? So the Rashab at this point is explaining how the Yetzer Hara succeeds at convincing the Jew to sin.
Right. So my question is like this. I mean, maybe it's a little bit on your pirush and also on Rashab's explanation. The question is like this: in specifically discussing today's problems, especially in the United States, with intermarriage, where Yiddish people are intermarrying. Isn't that the intermarriage and then the children from the intermarriage, isn't that considered karas? Because he's cutting himself, that man is cutting himself off from the generation, so his children are not really even his children, so he doesn't have children. That's karas, right?
Okay, well, again, courage spiritually for sure. Courage halachically we need to look at carefully, but that's not the only avera that there's courage. There's plenty of sins in the Torah where there's courage for.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm saying because in the Maimer, the way that the Rebbe, the terminology is where you are disconnecting from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Like you're trying to disconnect. So I'm saying it doesn't have to be, it's just an example, intermarriage is an example, it could be in any Avera, but I'm saying specifically, let's say we're talking about intermarriage, where the person, he's mamish disconnecting, it's not the Avera, because the Avera is it's a perpetuating Avera. It's like, okay, he got married, and now he's married a year, 2 years, he has a child, and meaning it's a lifestyle, it's not just an Avera. It's not like, okay, he had a cheeseburger today, and he feels bad about it tomorrow. He's not getting divorced. He's married to her 20 years. He has kids. It's mamish that he is separating himself from all Klal Yisrael and from HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
And again, and I'm saying you're putting an emphasis on intermarriage. What if you do another Avera, the Torah says you get chorus? You're also separating yourself. Here you have the added fact that you won't have Jewish children if the wife, the women, the female, which is another issue. But the idea of kares is for many averes. So what's your question? I'm not fine. What is your question?
Okay. No, so my question is that the fact that if it is something that you disconnect yourself, because the Rebbe just mentioned, he says you do any kind of avera, that's the chiddush, right? He's saying you're doing any kind of avera, you're
That's right. That's right. So, that's correct.
Exactly. And I hear the emphasis, and I appreciate the emphasis because that's very, very important. It's a very important nekuda. But I'm saying that, intermarriage is one of the things, but I'm saying any kind of avera where you separate yourself. It doesn't have to be intermarriage. It could be something else. It could be you move to Timbuktu and you have nothing to do with Yiddishkeit. You know what I'm saying? Like where a person is separating himself from, the klal. Like he's separating himself from the klal.
No, that's not what we're talking about. Separating yourself from Klal is not against God's will. What? It's maybe, Pirkei Avos suggests you live in a Jewish frum community with other people, but that's not an Aveda. We're talking about an Aveda. Let's say, I don't want to go into details, but there's Avedas in the Torah, which there's Karas for. I mean, specific Avedas. We're not talking about just... But I still don't hear... What is the question? I'm not following what your question is.
Right, so my question is, in a case where a person does do that, where a person does intermarry, so the fact that he is, I mean, it's an avera that you're chayav kares for, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm saying that if the person is chayav kares, is that person, I mean, obviously, I'm sure the Rebbe is going to say he's still a yid. There's no question he's still a yid, but what... Is there tshuva?
Yes, there is tshuva methods. Look in Tanya chapter 7, toward the last part of the section of the chapter there, and it gives you details of averas and tshuva for them and what can't be done tshuva. But I don't want to spend time on that. But there is tshuva. Yes, absolutely. Let's continue. Peirik Beis. Uve'emes kol zehu mishtuse yayetzer. All of this comes from the stupidity of the Yetzer Hara. Shemateu mechasel emes, which conceals the truth. Hashem yishmereinu b'zeh, may God guard us from this. The fact that the Yetzer Hara shows him and convinces him that this thing is good. Truthfully speaking, since it's prohibited matter, it's forbidden. It's death and evil actually. It says in the Torah, see, I give you today living and good, and the death, and evil. So the Torah itself calls Averos Mavis V'Ra. So it's not that the Alter Rebbe and Tanya that are sharp here are Mechadish. It's a pasuk in the Torah. So the person, by committing an Aveda, descends, lowers his nefesh, and he destroys his soul. That he puts it so low into the realm of bad, of no good. And he places his soul into the realm, albeit temporarily, but in the realm of the negative forces known as klippas. Which at the time of the Aveda, those are associated with the three contaminated klippos completely. In other words, it's in a place of bad, of no good. And the Rebbe adds, and he even, now what does that mean, Shmuel? What does Oid Lamata Mehem mean? So let's see what he says. In other words, he says that when you do the Aveda, you lower your neshama, not only Avi into Klippas Noiga, but also into Sholosh Klippas Atmeis, the three contaminated Klippas, and he says even lower than them. And he explains, I think. The Klippas of Sitaracha, they also receive their vitality from God's word and God's spirit. In what manner? In a concealed way. In other words, the chayas, the vitality, Moshe, of godliness, descends lower and lower and lower until it isn't felt any longer that it's godly chayas, but that non-felt godly chayas, which is now lowered and disguised and concealed, it sustains the klippas. That's why we call klippas, avodah zarah, we call it other gods. Because the nourishment and the vitality doesn't come from so-called, metaphorically speaking, God's countenance, God's face. It comes with it comes from the other side. Achoraim is the back side of holiness. What does Acharayim mean? For example, one who gives his friend, he gives his enemy something. He really doesn't want to give it to him, but he needs to give it to him. So he throws it to him behind his back. Here's your paycheck, and he walks away. He does work for him, he doesn't care for him, he's against him, but he needs him. Yeah, you're right. or kimachze panav mimenu, he turns his face away from him when he gives it to him, because he hates him, he doesn't like him. So too HaKadosh Baruch Hu hates the Klippa, but he needs Klippa in the world for free will and other things, so therefore he has to give him sustenance. What kind of sustenance does he give the Klippa? A sustenance that's been diluted, very diluted. This is the mashal. Also, look at the nimshal. Kach lemaila, so too p'chinas ponim. When we talk about God's face, countenance, who pnimius harotzen ha'elyin, the pnimius of Hashem's will, the cheftzah yamit in his true desire, that God desires to give vitality to all those that are close to him. Next page 54. Misitri de Kedusha, coming from the side of Kedusha. That's Pnimius. I enjoy giving to you. I want to give it to you. I like you. Why? Because you're involved with Kedusha. But the other side, the extraneous forces and the spiritual impurity side, it is the despicable of God that he hates. I hate this. I despise it. Hashem does not give the klippis vitality from his inner will. The chefs yamit in his true desire. Which he wants, they want that. You can't get that, klippis. You're bad guys. You're not getting that. Rather, it's like someone who throws something behind his back to his enemy, not willingly, he's not happy about it. The reason he does it, he brings for Pirkei Avos, is what? To punish the wicked, and to give goodwill, to give good reward to the tzaddikim, who subjugate the negative side. Therefore, Hashem says, I'm going to show a great difference between a tzaddik and a rasha. You rasha are getting the bare bones. The bones are even sucked out. That's what you're getting. And the kedusha is getting from my pnimius. Well, and since Hashem's face, his inner will, doesn't dwell at all on the negative side, and the backside of God's will is not invested in the pnimius elamakev olav milmayla. It hovers over it. It's like buzzing around and saying, "Give me, give me, give me." You can't come in. Stand outside and wait until I throw you a few bones. So they can't come in. So it's makif. It surrounds the pnimius. Therefore, the place of klippos is a place of death and contamination. May God watch us from it. Because true vitality, hu elikus, its godliness, shuprinas elikim chayim, for that is the level of the living God. Hashem elikim emes, hu elikim chayim. The truth-filled God is the living God. Perush, liyeshahu elikim emes. Since this experience is the God of truth, therefore, harehu elokim chayim, he is also the God of the living God. So now he mentioned this idea of emes. So now that Rebbe is going to explain a little bit about what is emes. It's important. Emes, hu nifsik le'olam. Emes is something that has no interruption. It never ceases. Umasha hefsik, something that does cease to be nikra kozov, is called false. And he brings the Mishnah, it talks about the rivers that are water that's needed for mayim chayim, for living water to purify someone who touched the corpse. So the Mishnah discusses various options, and it says about certain rivers that the waters coming from these rivers are mechazvin. They're false waters. What do you should the krayim kozov? So Mishnah in test in Sechtes Para. Shenikroyim Kozov, they're called false, Lefish and Nifsokim Lipamim, because these rivers, once in a while, every 7 years, they dry up. Ki emes hudava, next page, because truth is something she'eina nifsik li'olam, that never stops, never ceases, it never dries up. What do we see? That what's called mayim chayim, which we need for tahara of the tumah, to purify the contaminated, we need living water. And these waters coming from these rivers, in this particular case, even though it's only once in 7 years, you hear that? Avi, it's flowing the whole time. But since once in 7 years it dries up, the Mishnah says it's not mayim chayim. It's called Kozov, Mayin HaMechazvin. This is also the meaning of the word and the idea of Chayim, life, living. Therefore, the Mishnah says, those rivers that dry up are considered false. Psulin l'kiddush mechatas, they're invalid for the sanctification needed for the waters of purification mechatas. Because they're not called living waters. Specifically something that is truthful, which means it never ceases, it never interrupts, it never stops. This is called living. You hear that, Taich? That's what Chai is. Are we alive after our passing? If we were alive during our passing, we're alive after our passing. Chai. Of course, your body's in the earth, but your message and your mission and you have all your good deeds, and you are continued by your offspring and others. Then you're chai. Chai ein nifsik li'olam. Continuing. This is also the meaning. The truthful God, Hu Elikim Chayim. He quoted the pasuk before. He is the living God. Because he is the truthful God, meaning that there is no cessation and end, God forbid, to Hashem, who Elokim Chaim, that establishes that Hashem is the living God. He is living and existent mitzad atzmai, from in his own right. Shechai v'kayim lo'ad. It's not that we make Hashem chai v'kayim. Hashem himself is an emes, a God, is the God of truth. Hence is the living God, independent of our involvement. Baruch chai lo'ad v'kayim lo'netzach. We say in the morning, blessed is chai lo'ad v'kayim lo'netzach, the Hashem who lives forever. V'chol hadovik lelikus. Says the Rebbe Rashab, whoever cleaves and attaches himself to godliness, who gam ken pchinas chai, we call that person a living person. He's chai. Because godliness illuminates him in a revealed way and unites with him. So we call that person who has this level of dveikus, of attachment, a chai, a living person. The way it manifests itself is that he is subservient, he's bottled to likus, hamislabish b'toichoi, which invests itself in him, the dobit boy, and is now attached to him, ukumeshi is but, as we'll explain, and mishum zeh nikra gam ken chayim, therefore he's also called chayim. And this is what the sages say. There are 10 that are called living. HaKadosh Baruch Hu shenemar Hashem Elokim Emes, Hashem Elokim Chayim. The pasuk we just quoted, the emes of God, he is the living God. So we see that Hashem is called Chayim. Number 2, HaTorah nikras Chayim. Torah is called life, Chayim. Shenemar in pasuk in Mishli, we say it. Eitz Chayim he. It's a tree, a living tree. La machazikim bo, for those that hold it. V'samcheho mu'ushar, and those that support it are fortunate. Number 3, Yisrael nikroyim Chayim. Yidden are called Chayim. Shenemar, as it says, v'atem hadveikim. Hashem Elokechem, and you cleave to the living to Hashem Elokechem, Chayim Kulchem Hayoim, the living live Kulchem Hayoim, you are all today. So what do we see? That we get the Yidden are called Chayim because they attach themselves to Hashem. Because they are medubik, they are attached, they have dveikus to Hashem, they're called Chayim. Kitzur. HaKadusha v'hatoiv mikablim b'chayis b'pnimis ritzoni yizborich. Holiness and good receives its vitality from the inner will of Hashem. Conversely, haklipa v'sitra acher, the negative forces, mikablim chayusa michitzoni ritzoni yizborich. They receive vitality, otherwise they wouldn't exist. But from where? From Hashem's external. Habilti mislabish behem, and that amount of energy is not invested in them. Rak oimed aleim b'makif. It hovers over them. You hear that? It's not b'pnimius. In other words, even the amount of vitality, that's not the pnimius. It's just the superficial, the chitzonius. Even that doesn't enter in a pnimius way, in an inner way, to the klippa. It stands outside of them, metaphorically speaking, hovering over them, and it gives them some vitality, similar to someone who gives to their enemy something, not looking at them, but throwing it behind their back. That's how forbidden matter receives vitality from the klippas. You hear that? Even, how is it that things that are against Hashem, here is a very philosophical question. I hope you've asked yourself this question. How can forbidden matter, things that are against God, exist? Isn't that an oxymoron? Isn't that a contradiction? If God doesn't want it, God doesn't give it chayas. If God doesn't give it chayas, it shouldn't exist. Moshe, have you ever asked yourself that question?
So, I guess the answer that I think of is Kodesh Baruch created those things simply for us to distance ourselves from them, for us to not partake.
That's true. That's the purpose. But the question is, how does it even exist?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what, Avi? What? Avi, I don't hear you.
You're mute. Avi, you're mute.
Okay, we don't hear him. We don't hear him. For some reason, we don't hear you, Avi. Okay, next time. So the answer is that the chayas, God gives them chayas, but in a makif way. God does give them vitality. If Hashem would not give them chayas, they cannot exist. You're talking, Moshe, about the purpose, which you're right. The question wasn't about the purpose. The question is, how does it even exist? And the answer is, it gets chayas from God, but in an encompassing way, in a superficial way. And the example given is like throwing something to your enemy behind your back. We call that makif.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. What did you want to say?
So my thought was that maybe, as we say, Kol ma David Rahman al-Tava, everything that comes from Hashem is good, is that certain things could be neutral. A knife is neutral. It could be used to butter the bread, or it could be used to stab a person. It's in the kavanah and the usage that could turn it from something good to something bad.
Yes, that's true about neutrality. We're talking here about forbidden matter. It's not neutral. Something that is forbidden. How can that exist? That's the question.
We have to perhaps learn to be mitzamtzem and to discipline ourselves to, it's like the Eitz Hadat. The Eitz Hadat doesn't necessarily have to be per se bad, but it's the discipline to stay away from it.
But No. I understand the thought, but I'm sorry, but you're not following the question, or at least I don't see that you're following the question. The Eitz Hadas was neutral. Neutrality I have no problem with. We're talking about something that's forbidden. So once it becomes forbidden, the question is, how can it exist? If I say I don't want you to have glasses, I'm against you having glasses, would I give you glasses? No, it's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction. I'm against you having glasses. How does the existence of glasses exist on you if I'm against it? I would not make it possible for you to have glasses. So if Hashem is against the klippos, Hashem is against the tumah, how does he even give them a passageway to confront man and challenge man and bring out the best in man, as Moshe and you said? And the answer is this answer. The answer is because they do also get chayas. Can you turn off your mute yourself, Avi, now, please? The answer is because they get chayas. That's the answer. They do get chayas. What kind of chayas do they get? Makif, superficial. Hashem giving them chayas allows them to exist. That's the answer to my question, or to the. Shmuel, are you with us? Shmuel, do you follow? Do you have something to say?
Yes. It's part of the system. Hashem set up a system that people need to be tempted and tested. So therefore, there had to be this evil to tempt them. Not that Hashem likes the evil, but he had to create that to test people, to be part of the system. Okay. Shkoyach. Let's continue the Kitzer. So he says, that's why I was making my point. And the forbidden matter, you see, Avi, we're talking about forbidden matter, not neutrality. Forbidden matter, mikablim, receive chayusam, their vitality, mayhem from them. What does the mayhem go on, Yoni? What does it go on? On the klippos. The klippos give nourishment to evil and to anything that's against Hashem. Hadibuk belikus huchai. Now he goes to the last point of this chapter, attaching ourselves to godliness. This is living, this is chai. Ki emes ein lo hefsek. Because emes doesn't have a cessation. And this is, we'll finish with this, with just one word. This idea of emes ein lo chai is interesting, that in Tanya, in chapter 13 in Tanya, the Alter Rebbe speaks about emes. And the Alter Rebbe says there is emes, and there's emes la'amitoi. Take a look in Tanya, chapter 13. There is one level of emes that's emes in the situation that it's in. But that's not the ultimate emes. Ultimate emes is, not only is it emes in this particular situation, it's always emes. It was emes, it is emes, it will be, and regardless of the situation. So let's just for a moment, let's make that more practical. A person can be inspired in a certain shul, in a certain community, in a certain home, but when they leave that community, that shul, and that home, the inspiration is gone. Are you going to say that the inspiration where they were in their shul, home, and community was not true? It was. It's emes. But guess what? It's not emes la'amitoi. Emes la'amitoi does not depend on your environment. And that we learned it earlier here, that Ashab said it quickly. He said, Hashem in his own right is emes. And I said, independent of anything else, meaning even creation. Creation doesn't make Hashem emes. Hashem is emes by default. That's what God is. Truth. The fact that creation substantiates emes, wonderful. And what if creation does not substantiate emes? Is there an iota of less emes in God? Absolutely not. And this is a lesson for us, that we need to work on ourselves and refine ourselves and be Ovdei Hashem to the point that wherever we are, we're emes. You know, so whether it's Corona or no Corona, whether it's Eretz Yisrael or America or China or Asia, wherever you are emes. And if you live that way and that's who you are you'll be that way. So this is the lesson, that to be chai, to really be alive, and you look at a person, when you look at a person and say, this person is alive. But the person might have a white beard or not even a white hair, and he's an old alta, guy, and he's retired, but he's full of life. You know what I'm saying? He's full of life. He doesn't have the koiches begashmiim. Okay, that's koiches gashmiim, but the being is chai, is living. And this is a lesson for us to take in our avodas Hashem, to come to a point where we are chai li'olam. So when we talk about, chai and chai li'olam and all that, it's a mindset. I've said it to you many times, and I just came from shul, right? A yid with a chassidish yid, and somehow he says to me, that book, Positivity Bias? He says, it's unbelievable. Everyone needs to read it. And I was shocked, and I said, how do you know about the book? It's a Borough Parker, He says, I'll tell you another time. He says, my head's spinning from this. Here, someone had a schus to write the Rebbe's ideas in a way, and I think Yoni once commented about it too, about the book. I'm just saying that Torah is emes, and that the Rebbe was able to communicate this level of emes, and someone was able to put it in English for English readers. It has no borders. It goes all over anywhere, from the non-religious Jew to the Havdil, the Goy, to the Hasidic Jew in Borough Park. It's emes. Verstehst? Chevra, have a great day. We'll see everyone tomorrow. Mitzvah Shem. Zay Gezon. Take care.
One more point.
Yeah.
In the minor, the Rebbe touched upon, but he didn't elaborate. He said when the Yid goes against Hashem's will, he comes lower than the Sitra Achra, lower than the Clippers. And how is that? The Clippers are fulfilling a job that they have. There's a purpose for them. When the Yid goes against Hashem's will, he's not fulfilling his purpose. He's sinking below that.
Correct.
He's removing himself from his purpose.
Right. Thank you, Shmuel, for reminding me. I meant to summarize that because that was the point. So thank you. Yes, so that's the explanation to the words that he's lower than the Clippers. Zay Gezont to everyone. Have a great day. Bye bye.